Once you turn 80, these one things happen whether you like it or not. Signs of aging. Turning 80 years old is not just a birthday. It is the crossing of a threshold, a stage where life, body, and mind whisper truths you can no longer deny. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how famous you were, or how carefully you try to avoid it. Once you step into your 80s, one undeniable thing begins to happen. Life starts teaching you the real meaning of letting go. Letting go of strength, letting go of speed, letting go of the illusion of permanence, and finally, letting go of the idea that you will always have tomorrow. This is the one thing that happens whether you like it or not. Aging forces you to accept reality. But let's go deeper, because accepting reality is not a simple phrase. It shows itself in countless ways, touching your body, your memory, your relationships, and even your soul. 1. The body no longer lies. At 40, you could pretend you were still young. At 60, you could fight against age with discipline, diet, and determination. But at 80, the body begins to speak louder than your will. The slowing of movement. Even walking across the room feels like a small journey. Knees ache, joints protest, and your back reminds you that it carried you through decades of work and responsibility. Fragile strength. You may still lift light objects, but your grip is not what it was. A fall, once a minor inconvenience, now carries real danger. The mirror test. When you look in the mirror, you don't just see yourself. You see the history of your years carved into wrinkles, spots, and silver hair. This is nature's first reminder that the clock cannot be bargained with. 2. Memory becomes selective. At 80, memory plays a strange game with you. You may forget where you placed your glasses, but you can recall with sharp clarity the smell of your mother's cooking when you were a child. Short-term memory begins to fade. The present slips quickly. Long-term memory shines brighter, pulling you back into stories of your youth, reminding you of first loves, struggles, and victories. It is as though your mind, knowing its time is limited, chooses to revisit the places where your heart was most alive. 3. Friends disappear, loneliness appears. By the time you turn 80, many of your friends are no longer alive. The phone rings less often. Weddings are replaced by funerals. Conversations that once lasted hours now feel shorter, because people you once laughed with are gone. This is one of the hardest signs of aging. Loneliness doesn't ask permission, it simply arrives. You realize that life is not about how many birthdays you had. It's about who still holds your hand when those birthdays come. 4. The family role changes. At 80, your role in the family shifts. You are no longer the provider, no longer the one who makes the decisions. Instead, you watch your children and grandchildren build their lives. Sometimes this fills you with pride. Other times, it makes you feel invisible. You want to help, but the truth is, the world has changed. The technology, the language, the way people live, it feels faster than you can catch up with. And so you sit quietly, offering advice only when asked, hoping your wisdom still matters. 5. The heart softens even if the body hardens. A strange thing happens around 80. You begin to forgive more easily. Why? Because anger takes too much energy, and grudges suddenly feel pointless. You see life not as a competition anymore, but as a collection of moments. And you realize, if you waste those moments on bitterness, you only rob yourself. The truth of aging is this: the older you get, the more you value peace over victory. 6. The fear of death fades. Surprisingly, at 80, many people are less afraid of death than they were at 40. Why? Because you have lived enough to see that death is not an enemy. It is simply the final chapter of a book that was always going to end. Some greet it with fear, others with peace, and a rare few with gratitude. But all must face it. This is the deepest sign of aging. The acceptance that nothing belongs to us forever, not even life itself. 7. The wisdom of slowness. When you are young, you rush. At 80, you slow down. Eating a meal becomes a ritual, not a chore. A walk in the garden feels like a journey worth savoring. Conversations stretch longer because you have nowhere else to rush to. This slowness is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the realization that every sip of tea, every laugh with a grandchild, every sunrise is borrowed time, and borrowed time is precious. The one thing that happens whether you like it or not. So, what is the one thing that happens when you turn 80? It is this: life forces you to live truthfully. At 80, you can no longer hide behind youth, ambition, or endless plans. You are stripped of illusions. You see what matters and what never did. Health matters. Family matters. Memories matter. Kindness matters. Everything else, money, pride, possessions, fades into the background. A final reflection. Reaching 80 is not a punishment. It is not the end of life's beauty. It is simply a mirror showing you both the fragility and the depth of being human. Yes, the body slows. Yes, memory falters. Yes, friends leave. But the heart at 80 can still love, can still laugh, can still inspire. The truth is this: once you turn 80, life does not stop. It simply teaches you to live differently, more honestly, more gently, more wisely, and perhaps that is the greatest gift of all. Hit that subscribe button and join us on a journey through the timeless wisdom of the older generation. Don't miss a single life-changing lesson.